It is exactly 1 month since a massive earthquake hit southern Turkey and northwestern Syria. More than 50,000 people were killed in the worst natural disaster in modern Turkish history. Now, the quake's epicenter was near the Turkish city of Gaziantep, close to the Syrian border. Millions of people have been affected. They've been injured, left homeless. Ankara declared a 3-month state of emergency for the 10 provinces that were most affected. Now, the government has also arrested contractors suspected of shoddy building that may have vastly increased the death toll. After years of war, the situation in northwestern Syria is harder to evaluate. The cities of Aleppo and Idlib were among those badly hit, and a powerful aftershock in the following weeks triggered new fears. DW's Mohammed Al-Rifai reports from Idlib.
At nightfall, the 44-year-old Amar Faid fills his car with blankets and drives to the outskirts of Idlib, far away from the city's crumbling residential buildings. He spends the night here with his son. Since the second earthquake struck northwestern Syria and Turkey, hundreds of families are afraid to sleep in their own homes for fear of being trapped inside if they collapse.
After all the earthquakes, my son and I are traumatized. We don't dare stay at home because it's not safe there. We haven't bought a tent. Tents cost between $200 and $400, and we can't afford one. So we've decided to stay here.
The earthquakes that struck northern Syria and killed almost 6,000 people also destroyed thousands of structures. After the second quake, nearly 200,000 people were displaced. Families abandoned their homes as aftershocks made the initial damage from the quakes even worse. Many moved into tents in front of their houses or in other public places. Isan, a relief organization based in Germany, says the challenges are numerous.
The most crucial obstacle to expanding refugee camps to accommodate the enormous number of people displaced by the earthquakes is that the communities were not ready to build such facilities. And there's the challenge of providing enough tents. And after the second earthquake, even more people abandoned their homes because of the trauma they experienced in the first one.
Near the city of Idlib, Mohammed Luthkani offered shelter on his farm and swimming facility to people who have lost their homes or to families who are afraid their buildings will collapse on them.
After the first earthquake, we received 22 families who lost their homes. And after the second one, many more came here because they were afraid to stay in their buildings. As you can see, it's difficult to meet their needs.
For thousands of Syrians, the choice is between living on the street or living in fear.
And let's get more on the situation now in neighboring Turkey. We can bring in Alexandra Saei, head of humanitarian policy and advocacy at Save the Children International. She joins us from the Turkish city of Gaziantep. Welcome to the program, and thank you for joining us. You're in one of the most affected areas in Turkey. Is aid now reaching all those who need it there?
Aid efforts have ramped up, but what people are telling us is that they're still in survival mode. They're not able to plan for the future. They're saying that even thinking about recovery is so far away for them because they're telling us that they're still looking for durable shelter. They're still worried about access to water. They're still worried about access to sanitation facilities. They're still worried about their next hot meal. The destruction that the earthquake has left is so massive. You walk through the city of Antakya and not a single building was left untouched. Almost every building is either damaged, destroyed, or completely collapsed. And the heartbreaking thing is that for many people, they're still so afraid to be sleeping indoors. Children are telling us that they don't want to sleep indoors because they're afraid of another earthquake, and they've had to endure so many shocks as well over the past over the past month. It's been relentless for people, and it's so far from over.
Given all of that, what are the biggest challenges to getting people the aid that they so desperately need right now?
There are so many challenges. I mean, the first thing is that the needs are just so massive. Also, the situation is very fluid. Families still don't know where they want to set up their lives. There are so many things that are impacting people's decisions. Many families are still grieving loved ones. Some families are still waiting to retrieve the bodies of loved ones from underneath the rubble. The situation is extremely fluid, and it's just the destruction is so massive for many people to cope with.
What would you like to see? What more would you like to see from the international community?
Well, the international community now has an opportunity to show solidarity and to provide support. The flash appeal for Turkey is greatly underfunded. Less than 10% of the funding needed for the response has been committed for Turkey. This is abysmally low for a disaster of this proportion. So we really need the international community to show solidarity and show support by committing funding to the response. In March, later this month, the EU and Sweden are going to be hosting a donors conference to support the humanitarian response in both Turkey and Syria. And this is an opportunity for the international community to really show they show their generosity and show solidarity with people here.
Alexandra Sayi from the Save the Children chapter in Gaziantep, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.